I realize I picked a great time to go ahead and try to record this with my voice being half gone. But I felt like God wanted me to do it now. When I walk through the woods, I can't help but think about the deep questions of life. The impossible ones that we'll never know the answer to. But they just burn inside of me as I walk around and I see just God's creation. I can't help but feel like a part of Him is in it. Just like when God created us, there's a part of Him in us, like the Spirit can be in us. I think that God uses nature to speak to us. I think God uses nature to put those deep thoughts and questions into our brains so that we eventually try to seek out the answer, so that we eventually end up learning about God and finding out about Him and who He is and end up loving Him. I think it's a little piece of the puzzle that God leaves there for us. The fact that all the questions pop up from just strolling around in the woods makes me feel like nature is almost God's diary. Like all the emotions and thoughts that get put into our brains, it's almost as if it's God just saying, hey, I left this for you. Go look at it, go listen, go find out everything you can about it because I left it for you to learn from. And I love it. So we start searching like that little piece of the puzzle of life, where we search for Him until we see the whole picture and God's plan. And I think it's just a piece of it. And what sucks is some people completely ignore it. They can walk through the woods and, just complain about the mud and, the mosquitoes and completely miss what's around them. Another thing I adore about the woods is the fact that it's always been there. It's never gone away, it's seen everything. When we live only a minute, the woods have seen things from the beginning. It's like that one place where time kind of stands still. You don't see cars or hear the roadways or any kind of civilization. It's just you and nature. The way it was supposed to be in the beginning. And I love it. It gives it an unearthly feeling. And that's funny because we consider that unearthly when that's what it is, though it is earthly. And we think of it as something unnatural, which is the complete opposite. But what are the big questions for me that has always popped up in my brain while walking through the woods, or one of those things I've always had a hard time dealing with, was death. I was always curious about death, confused about it. I just didn't understand it. But I don't think anyone does, because death is of the dead and we are of the living. We can't understand it. We never will. It's one of the great mysteries that God gives us. When we have confidence in Him and we know where we're going, we don't have to worry about it. But it's just the fact that it's a mystery that we don't quite get. One of those things that can be the greatest experience ever, because you get to go on and start a new journey, but it can also be the most horrific for the person that loved you that's left on earth. One thing I love about cemeteries is the idea that we get put into the ground when we're dead. Our physical bodies become part of the earth, which makes us part of nature, which in essence, I guess, makes us part of the thing that whispers to other people. We get to show God to others. Even when we're gone and with God, our bodies are still down there, a part of something bigger. I know it's a bit of a stretch and kind of way out there, but it's always one thing that I've found comforting or really cool. The fact that we get to become the thing that whispers to others and puts the thoughts of death into other people's heads. Not literally, because we're not there, but our bodies do. And the thought of death becomes that much more bearable. The idea of it becomes that less scary when you know that, you have a better journey coming and that God's there. And you get to become part of an even bigger plan that's still in action, even though you're not here on earth anymore. It's just one of those things that I can't wait to find out more about. what's cool is even when I struggle with the questions about death or the questions about life that drive me nuts, like my purpose or, what's going to happen with life, the future, all those things that just gnaw at you, I can find comfort in God. He says that he's always there, and we just are able to find rest and peace in him and through his Bible. One of the cool things that I love, absolutely adore about when reading my Bible or whatever, I love Psalms. I love listening to David or reading what David says. You can almost hear him saying it, his soul like yearning his soul fighting with the same questions that we are dealing with. And you can see the struggle between his faith in God and like the desires of his heart and like the sinful nature. You can just see it battling back and forth in like this passionate way with words. It's fantastic, and I absolutely adore it. And I think that's just one of those things that like he even noticed that nature has a way of messing with your brain. Like he'll describe like the deer, drinking from the water, and like, why do you take time to do that? Because God created it and he's in it. I just think it's cool that God's in our home, living with us almost. I think it's comforting to know that God's there and that that we can live life to the fullest with him. And even with all those hard questions and stuff, like we still can just have fun and live life, and celebrate it. And sometimes it's okay to ignore those questions, but eventually have to come back and make a decision whether or not to try to figure them out, search for God. In the end, take comfort in the fact that this is our home.